Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into some pretty wild research that connects two things you'd probably never, ever think belong in the same sentence: sound waves and fat cells. I know, right? It sounds like something straight out of science fiction. But what if I told you that new research is starting to show that the answer might actually be yes? So this is the big takeaway right here. We're talking about simple vibrations, sounds that you and I can actually hear, causing a direct and measurable change in how our cells behave. This isn't just random background noise. It's more like a specific instruction that our cells can literally hear and then follow. But how on earth do you even start to test an idea like this? I mean, you can't just slap a pair of headphones on a petri dish and hit play. The researchers had to get really clever and build a very specific setup. So instead of a speaker playing sound at the cells, which would be super inefficient, they built this system with what's called a vibrational transducer. It essentially dips right into the liquid the cells are living in and turns that liquid into a sound conductor. It generates the acoustic waves right there in the cell's own environment. And here you can really see just how precise their experiment was. They used very specific cells, including the ones that are the precursors to fat cells. And they didn't just test one sound. They used a whole range, from a low hum to a really high-pitched frequency. But here's the key part. The intensity was kept at a level that our cells would normally experience inside our own bodies, which makes these results so much more relevant. And the results were, well, they were just astonishing. After only a single day, the sound had changed the expression of 145 different genes. I mean, that is a massive response. The cells weren't just hearing the sound, they were actively rewriting their own instructions because of it. Okay, so we know the cells are listening, but how? How does a simple physical vibration get translated into a super complex genetic command? Well, it turns out it's all part of a fascinating cellular chain reaction. You see, the sound creates this tiny little shake, a physical perturbation. The cell feels this jiggle, and that feeling kicks off a very, very specific biological pathway. It's kind of like a secret knock that opens a hidden door inside the cell. Now, at the very heart of this whole thing is a protein called focal adhesion kinase, or FAK for short. The best way to think about FAK is as the cell's own personal motion detector. It's part of the cell's anchor, and when that anchor gets vibrated by sound, FAK is the very first thing to sound the alarm. Okay, this slide lays out the whole sequence of events perfectly. First, the sound wave physically jiggles the cell. That wakes up FAK, our motion detector. Then, the activated FAK goes and flips a switch on a gene called PTGS2. This gene's job is to produce a messenger molecule, PGE2, which then gets sent out to tell a bunch of other genes what to do. It's this beautiful, elegant process of turning a physical force into a chemical command. So if FAK is the one that feels the vibration, you can think of PGE2 as the chemical alert that broadcasts the message. It's the molecule that shouts the command to the rest of the cell. And this quote, straight from the study, just nails it. It all starts at the focal adhesions, those anchor points, where FAK gets the signal and kicks off that whole PGE2 messenger system. It confirms the entire pathway. So what is this command? What is the message that PGE2 is shouting to all the other cells? Well, it's a very simple but incredibly powerful one: stop. So as they were testing different kinds of cells, they noticed something amazing. Pre-adipocytes, these are the cells that are basically destined to become fat-storing cells, they were incredibly responsive to the sound-triggered pathway. So of course, the next logical question was, can we use sound to stop them from becoming fat cells in the first place? And the visual evidence was just, wow, it was so clear. On the left, you see the normal cells, just doing their thing, plumping up with fat droplets. But on the right, the cells that were exposed to that 440 hertz sound wave, they look totally different. Their whole development process was just shut down. They stored way fewer lipids, and a whole lot more of them just stayed as they were, undifferentiated. And if you're a numbers person, here you go. The sound literally caused a 15% drop in fat accumulation compared to the silent group. The sound was actively preventing the cells from storing fat. It's just incredible. So let's just quickly break down what this all means. The sound turned off the very genes that tell a cell to become a fat cell. It nearly doubled the number of cells that just refused to differentiate. And what's really, really interesting is that you didn't need constant sound. Just a couple of hours a day did the trick.
And this last point confirms everything. The effect was the same as if they had just skipped the sound and dumped that PGE2 messenger molecule right onto the cells.
Okay, this is all absolutely fascinating in a lab, but what about for us, in the real world? Well, this research really blows the doors wide open for some truly exciting possibilities.
I love this quote from the researchers. They're basically saying, look, we only tested a couple of sounds. Given the infinite number of sound patterns out there, we might have just stumbled upon a massive, completely untapped toolkit for controlling what our cells do. I mean, just think about the potential here. We could be looking at a future with new treatments for obesity that don't involve drugs or surgery. Or maybe we could use specific frequencies to guide stem cells to repair a damaged organ. Sound could become a fundamental tool in medicine, maybe as common as a stethoscope one day. What this research really does is open up a whole new line of communication with our own bodies. We've just learned that our cells are listening. So the big question now is, what else can we say to them? What other incredible things could we achieve if we just learn how to speak their language? Thanks for watching.